Hello and welcome to my new video. Today I will be talking about the fate of carbon in the oceans. As you may know, a large amount of the excess carbon dioxide we have been producing in recent decades is absorbed by the oceans. How is this working? Will it continue to work? To answer such questions, we have to understand what is happening to carbon dioxide in the oceans. For this video, I have selected two very recent articles focusing on this topic. I will not report the entire contents of these papers. This would be much too long for a short video. Instead, I will focus on basic mechanisms in the oceans and only report things relevant in this respect. Citations for the two papers can be found in the comment section from this video. So why should we care about carbon in the oceans? The reason is clear from this image here. The oceans are storing huge amounts of carbon, much more than in all living organisms combined, and much more than in our soils. And even more important, they have absorbed a large amount of the excess carbon dioxide we have been producing in the past, and we should all hope that this will stay this way as long as possible. So, how are the oceans absorbing carbon dioxide? What is happening here? In the first place, this is only a series of physical and chemical equilibria. Carbon dioxide can be exchanged rapidly between water and air, and it can react with water, forming carbonic acid, not shown here. Therefore, increasing amounts of carbon dioxide will decrease the pH of the oceans, making the oceans more acidic, a problematic effect for many marine organisms. The real effect, however, is caused by living organisms. Small algae will take up carbon dioxide from the water and will use it for photosynthesis. They integrate carbon dioxide into their own tissue. When they are eaten, this carbon is integrated into zooplankton or krill, and from there it builds up fish or whales. This integration into organismic matter is not a long-term solution, however. By reoxidizing organic matter, organisms are liberating the energy stored in this matter, and we end up again with carbon dioxide, which may quickly be liberated into the air. How are oceans able to store large amounts of carbon then? This is because organisms and their excrements have the tendency to sink down in the oceans. Below a certain limit, carbon dioxide can no longer be exchanged with the atmosphere, at least not in the short term. Usually, scientists assume that below a depth of 1000 meters, carbon dioxide will be caught in the oceans for more than 100 years. Now, this is where our first publication comes into play. The authors, Florian Ricour and colleagues, have modeled the process of sinking down and conclude that the limit of 1000 meters is a very rough estimate at best. There is a substantial part of carbon sequestered in the oceans above 1000 meters, and there is also a carbon below 1000 meters which may be liberated in rather short term. In addition, the authors demonstrated that the depths where most of the carbon is sequestered for long times in the ocean depends on the geographic location. There are oceanic regions where large amounts of carbon dioxide are sequestered above 1000 meter depth, while other regions may release carbon dioxide even from deeper areas. Why is this happening? Well, let's have a look at the further fate of carbon in the deep oceans. What is happening to organic material raining down from the ocean surface to the deeper areas? Similar as on the surface, the material eventually will become oxidized, resulting in carbon dioxide. As long as this carbon dioxide is not transported to the surface, everything is fine. There is one mechanism, however, able to do this transport: ocean currents. Ocean currents will determine to which extent carbon dioxide from the huge oceanic reservoir is transported to the surface and liberated into the air. And since ocean currents may change in the course of decades to millennia, so may liberation of oceanic carbon dioxide into the air. To summarize the first part of this video and to answer my initial question, the sinking of organismic carbon of dead or living organisms and of excrements is responsible for carbon storage by the oceans. This process currently is strongly mitigating climate change. This might change in the future depending on shifts in ocean currents. An increase in ocean circulation might result in increased liberation of carbon from the oceans. Is this a likely scenario? To address this question, we might take a look on shifts in ocean currents in the past. This is now where my second publication comes into play. The authors, J. Yu and colleagues, have measured levels of deep oceanic carbon dioxide over many thousands of years and convincingly correlated shifts observed with shifts in atmospheric carbon dioxide. Such correlations suggest that carbon dioxide removed from the depth by increasing ocean circulation was really responsible for the correlated shifts in atmospheric carbon dioxide. How can we measure carbon dioxide levels from the past 150,000 years deep down to the oceans? First thing, of course, you have to be there, deep down in the oceans. Let's say about 3,000 meters deep. Then you drill a core sample from the material which has accumulated there over the millennia. First thing you do with this core is a determination of its age using radiocarbon dating. This age determination is very important for correlating the measurements down there with things we already know did happen in the past of our planet. The core sample used by the authors spanned the entire period of the last glacial from 150,000 years ago to almost present. The scientists studied 588 slices from this material, each corresponding to roughly 256 years. Next thing you do then is have a look at oxygen isotopes, which will give you a record of temperatures for the last 150,000 years deep down in the oceans. The thing of real interest to the scientists, however, was the boron-calcium ratio of some calcified shells, which is corresponding to carbon dioxide levels during the formation of the shells. It is corresponding in a uniform way only, however, when you study shells from a given species, so you have to collect these specific shells from your material first, before you can start your analysis. Anyway, despite of all these challenges, the authors succeeded in generating a record of deep ocean carbon dioxide and correlating it with records from atmospheric carbon dioxide. Levels from atmospheric carbon dioxide can be gained by studying air trapped in ice cores extracted, example given from Antarctica. The ocean sediment core studied by the authors was not the first one studied in such a way. In 2018, results have been published for a core from the location labeled in blue from the Southern Ocean right between South America and Africa. Results from this core already explain some of the atmospheric variation of carbon dioxide while leaving some question marks at the same time. The new core now improves the connections between decline in deep ocean carbon and increase in atmospheric carbon. Ocean currents do not change in a uniform way on our planet, and the analysis of further cores will provide an even more complete picture showing which current did change in which area at which time and point. Such a picture is important when trying to predict how the oceans will react to the changes imposed by human activities. In summary, I have presented a picture how oceans are storing and releasing carbon dioxide. Everything depends on transport processes, both from the surface into the depth and from the depth up to the surface. Understanding these transport processes is important for predicting long-term development of atmospheric carbon dioxide.